Elysian Park. Elysian Park is Los Angeles's oldest park. During the US-Mexico War of 1846 to 1848, Southern California was a hotly contested topic. Legend has it that, to protect their wealth from hostile forces, locals took to the hills, caves, and ravines of this vast park to hide gold jewels, and more. Newspapers as far back as 1896 show that people have been searching for the treasure ever since. The most famous example is that of Don Francisco Avila, who built the first ever house in LA, which stands to this day. Treasure hunter Roy Rausch claimed to have found etchings in rocks that he believes may point to the location of this treasure. To this day, however, no treasure has been discovered in Elysian Park. Lake Oklets. High in the Austrian Alps, and deep in the dense mountain forest, Lake Oklets is an ideal place to hide $5.6 billion of stolen gold. What gives this theory some credence is that 700 million pounds of counterfeit notes, that Hitler had planned to use for destabilizing the British economy, were recovered from the lake in 1959. The dilemma here, of course, is the question of whether this is what the locals saw, the Nazis dump in the lake. The lake is over 300 feet deep, with a layer of logs floating roughly halfway down, making investigations a very risky ordeal, so here gold can put your life on hold. Poverty Island. Poverty Island in Lake Michigan is home to a lonely lighthouse, and an absolutely ridiculous amount of gold, if legends are to be believed. St. Nate's Base placed the value of the lost gold at around $400 million today. According to this theory, British forces attacked a French ship sailing across Lake Michigan to woo the Native Americans with gold. To prevent the British from seizing the gold, the captain ordered it be thrown overboard. The French make another appearance, with some legends saying the gold belonged to Napoleon Bonaparte III. Bonaparte supposedly sent the gold to support the Confederates during the Civil War, but the plan was thwarted when the ship was attacked and sunk by Canadian pirates. The legends are far from over, however. They have yet to provide any proof of their supposed $2 million discovery. Skeleton Canyon. Skeleton Canyon is located in the Peninsular Mountains, along the Arizona-New Mexico border. Prior to the 20th century, the canyon was a popular trail for smugglers looking to quietly move their booty to Tucson, as well as for the bandits looking to ambush them. The Skeleton Canyon treasure refers to one specific haul, originally known as the Monterey Loot. Toward the end of the 19th century, American bandits carried out a raid on the Mexican city of Monterey. The band of bandits were hotly pursued on the 1,000-mile trail, leading them to hide as much of the treasure as they could. Many of these men died on the journey, which is how the canyon got its name. There have been several reports of men who set up camp only to quickly disappear, leading locals to believe they may have been recovering the treasure, so this canyon may have more than a few skeletons in its closet to this day. Krugers Millions. Kruger, or Uncle Paul, was the third president of the South African Republic for over 17 years. With the advent of the Second Boer War, the public opinion started turning against him. Kruger made his escape for Europe. Rumors swirled that the train he was riding on was also carrying a substantial amount of gold. Subsequent investigations revealed not only that £1.5 million had been stolen from the government, but that it had been slowly siphoned off for months. In 2001, a Zulu family of Ermelo came forward claiming to have found some of the lost coins. While last year, another man claims to have found the treasure at the base of the Emerenshire Dam. Even if these claims are true, Ermelo councillors believe the stash would have been split up into at least 3 caches. So much gold here and there. SAS Treasure. When most people think of Russian royalty, they will think of one of 3 things: oppression, conspiracy, or decadence. It should come as no surprise, therefore, that Tsar Nicholas II allegedly stashed away what would now be billions of dollars worth of treasure prior to the Bolshevik Revolution in 1917. The theory suggests that the gold may have been aboard a Trans-Siberian train that crashed into Lake Baikal, which just happens to be the oldest and deepest lake in the world. Excavations have been attempted but have met with little success other than confirming the location of the train. Ivory Coast Crown Jewels. In 2010, the Ivory Coast held its first election in over 10 years, which saw the incumbent President Gbagbo pitted against the much more popular Alassane Ouattara. When Gbagbo was declared the winner, the country was thrown into a turmoil that would become known as the 2010 to 2011 Ivorian crisis. Although the crisis was short-lived, this brief conflict may have cost the coast one of its most valuable treasures, the Ivory Coast Crown Jewels. As civil war raged through the country, with heavy UN and French intervention, over 80 objects were stolen from the Museum of Civilization. Valued at around $6 million, it is the immense cultural significance of these objects that sets them apart from other similar losses. The Ivory Coast collection represented multiple kingdoms and dynasties, making the loss of this diverse collection especially devastating. Interpol is trying to locate the items on the black market but have had no success to date. Awa Maru. Originally intended to be an ocean liner, the Awa Maru was a Japanese warship built during World War II. With the end of the war drawing near, the U.S. grew increasingly concerned for Allied troops being held captive in Japan. Not because they feared mass execution, but because the Japanese were low on resources and would prioritize their own people over their enemies. Seeing an opportunity to turn the war around, the Japanese used ships much larger than necessary, letting them safely transport raw materials. Unfortunately for the Japanese, bad weather prevented the entire US fleet from hearing the no bombing plan, killing all of the 2,004 people on board. In the 1970s, a Chinese expedition spent millions trying to recover the treasure, but turned up nothing. The value of the treasure, which included ivory, precious metal, gemstones, and historical artifacts, has been estimated as $5 to $10 billion, making it potentially the biggest haul in treasure hunting history. Brinks Mat Robbery. The Brinks Mat warehouse was a highly secure facility, located in Heathrow Airport, London. On November 26, 1983, the security guard on shift was Anthony Black, an inside man who allowed 6 gunmen into the facility. The plan was to break in and abscond with as much cash as possible, but upon entering, the men discovered much more than they bargained for. The warehouse was teeming with platinum, gold, diamonds, checks, and cold hard cash. After dousing the staff in petrol and threatening to set them alight, the men packed up the goods and fled. What was intended to be a haul of around £3 million cash ended up being a literal treasure trove to the tune of £26 million. Police could trace how a lot of the haul was laundered, but it is believed that £10 million worth of gold remains hidden, and the case has yet to be solved in full. Hatton Garden Heist. Hatton Garden is the Amsterdam of Britain, with a long history of jewelers and diamond traders taking up residence in the London district. What makes this robbery particularly interesting, apart from being the single biggest robbery in British history, is that it took place over 2 days, during the Easter bank holiday weekend in April 2015. On their first attempt, 4 elderly career thieves used an elevator shaft to gain entry to the lower levels of the Hatton Garden safe deposit. Using a diamond-tipped drill, they bored through the walls and gained entry to the safe. They then discovered that they couldn't enter the cabinets where the goods were kept, so they left, got the necessary supplies, and returned the next day. They then walked out with all measures of gold, diamonds, jewelry, and cash. Original estimates placed the cost of the robbery at £14 million, but that has now risen to £25 million. Only 1/3 of the loot has ever been recovered. Unfortunately, these pensioners severely underestimated the omnipresence of technology in today's world, and left a very blatant trail of CCTV footage and phone signals that led police straight to them.